Shalom Abracha. This week we start say the Sefer Shemos. Yidden are Mitzrayim, working very hard, and it's going to say over what it says in Talmud Yo. It says Mana Shtana Mitzrayim. What is different Mitzrayim? Kol Medinas Ha'akim. What is Mitzrayim different than all other Medinas from the Goyim? Kulam Shenechnasu Yisrael Techam, that the Yidden went into it. Why was Mitzrayim zeiche for Yidden to go into it? The Mitzrayim were ruled from one side of the world to the end of the world, other side of the world. They had tons of Averis. There was no other nation in the world. That it was full of terrible stuff. They were full with kshafim, bezima, and arayis, and all bad things. Only Mitzrayim. They were the worst in the planet. They were the rules of the of the whole world, and they were the worst of everyone. All the bad things were kishuf and zima, arayis. Everything was there. So the Eibishter lefichach bolahem Mitzrayim to kol al yodam. That's why the Eibishter used Mitzrayim because they were so bad. It says the Eibishter uses a bad nation in order to bring through it other bad things. Magalgal choyvad aychayv. V'akadosh Baruch Hu mevakesh lasses k'yisruach l'shomei hagadol b'hem Mitzrayim. Hashem used them to make His name great in the world. So that's why Hashem brought them to Mitzrayim, and they got punished, and Hashem's name became great, and Klal Yisrael became a nation, Hashem's nation. So that's what Talmud Yoel says. Now we understand the greatness of what it says in the Medrash this week's Parsha. It says that the Parsha says, "Vayah Moshe ish Mitzri." He saw a Mitzri starting up with a Jewish man and his wife, and the Medrash says that one of the reasons why the Yidden had a geula from Mitzrayim was because there was no chshad ever, they weren't nichshel in the rayis. It says there was only one lady, this week's parsha, this lady who this Mitzri started up with, only one lady who was nichshel in a rayis in Mitzrayim, and that's it. Everyone else was clean, and Medrash says this lady was Dasan's wife, and these were troublemakers from beginning to end. They ended up being swallowed up, and she was the only one that was nichshel in her eyes. And that was the reason why they had a geula. Now we understand, if Mitzrayim was the worst place possible, and had the biggest nisyonis, and even though they had the biggest nisyonis, Klal Yisrael held himself strong and held himself a kedusha. That was one of the reasons why the Taka came out of Mitzrayim. And not only were the Yidden nizer in Eshesish from marrying, having relations which are inappropriate with other people, other men, but even Hilchas Nida, they were nizer. It says in the Medrash in Talmud Yo, Hashem brought down 10 makas of Mitzrayim. Everyone was midah keneged midah. Whatever the Mitzrayim tried to do to Yidden, Hashem punished them. And the Medrash says, "Dam mipnei ma ba'aleim." This is lashon l'Talmud Yo. Why did that makas dam come on the Mitzrayim? They saw the Yidden. They were nizer from tumah and they saw the Jewish girls being toivel going to the mikvah tumas nida, and they closed all the mikvahs. They didn't let the Yidden be toivel in the mikvahs. That's what Talmud Yoel in the Medrash says. So, and because they didn't want the Yidden should have children and be greater. That's why Hashem punished them with the makas dam, that all the water became blood. They didn't let the Yidden be toivel in water because of the tumah from the blood. So Hashem turned all the water to blood. That's the reason what the Medrash and Talmud Yo give for the makaf and dam. So we see from here that the Yidden were very, very nizer in Hilchas Nida, already in Mitzrayim. They were nizer chas v'shalom from. There was only one person that was nichshel in Arayis, and in Hilchas Nida they were all nizer. And the same thing we find by Hanukkah. We just had Hanukkah a couple of weeks ago. It Medrash says that all the Gzeres or the Yevanim did for on the Yidden. They said, it's a very long Medrash. Medrash says that they said, let's make them Gzeres like Chedai. They should come to do Avodah Zarah. They should leave go of Hashem and come to Avodah Zarah. What was the first thing they did? They made sure that no one has the doors closed. They shouldn't be bitznius. And Yidden couldn't do anything. They couldn't eat. They couldn't have relations. They couldn't be intimate. And that was the first Gzeira. The second Gzeira, after 3 years, it didn't help them. They made, this is the famous Gzeira. They said everyone has to write on their ox and the horn that they have no chelik in Hashem. The Medrash says they went and they sold everything because they didn't want to have to do that Gzeira. And then after a few years, it says that the Medrash that they made a Gzeira that any woman that goes to the mikveh is going to get killed. And anyone that sees this woman going to the mikveh, she becomes his slave, and her children become her slave. She becomes his wife, and the Yavani's wife, and the children become his slaves. And Yidden ended up not having tashmish, not having relations, not being intimate. And in the end of the story, the Medrash says that Hashem Nes, that there was a mikveh opened up in everyone's house. Where's the Gezach? And then there was a Gzeira. They made a Gzeira that the Yidden shouldn't, before they get married, every woman before gets married has to have relations with with some Yevani Sar or something. And that's what caused the whole Nes of Purim. The daughter of Matzio made that they all went to a war with the Yevanim. But that was they understood. The guy understood. The Yevanim understood that this is what the Jews stand for. The Kedushas Israel, the Hilchas Nid, the Taras Mishpacha, and they try to make Gzeres, and the Yidden stood strong. And Hashem even made Nisim for them that they should be able to go to the mikveh in their house, created the mikveh in everyone's house. And this is something to think about, how the Yidden in Mitzrayim were Moshe Nefesh for Taras Mishpacha. The Yidden by the time of the Yevonim, they were Moshe Nefesh for Taras Mishpacha. They gave up everything. And that's how it was all the generations until our generation. Moshe writes in one of the Chuvas that we able to accomplish with the Chesed Hashem l'sak a mikveh, to make a mikveh be mehag zera, when they had a zera in Russia, the Beis HaMerchetz in the bathhouse shalom loishlam ba'oifim shlahikiri shehim mikveh kshera. They made a mikveh in a way in the bathhouse, which in a way that the goyim didn't chap that there was a mikveh. Moshe was behind a mikveh, a secret mikveh in the bathhouse. How did that work? What happened over there? So that's the Chuvas in the Igus Moshe. In the Hagdama to Chelik Ches, he speaks about a similar story. He says that the Russians closed all the mikvahs. They said that it's not gesund, it's not hygiene, the mikvahs, and they destroyed the whole mikvah of the town, Lubyan, where Moshe was a Rav. And instead of that, they built a merchetz, a bathhouse, and they made that the men and women should have, anyone that wants to go to bathe himself has to be in this bathhouse, and there's no separate times of men and women. They wanted to destroy the idea of kedusha. That was part of their revolution. And Moshe, I'm being mekator, it says over there, Moshe went to the township and he said, listen, I'm not arguing with you about the hygienes and everything, but one thing I got to tell you, that the Jews are a stubborn nation, and they're not going to go wash themselves, and it's dangerous. There's going to be a problem of hygiene. People are going to get sick, and it's going to spread, and people are going to die. So he says, at least one day a week, they should make it that they should be able to be separate hours, men and women. And they took the Moshe's Eitzah, and that's how it was. And it says over there, in the Akdama, that one of the people that built it, the Moshe, they got him to, one of these professionals, they got him to bring the water in such a way that it should be kosher to be for mikveh b'shas chak. It means to say that Moshe turned this bathhouse into a mikveh. And this was the only mikveh. It was B'shas kashrus, but it was kosher B'shas Chak. And everyone found out about this mikveh. There was no other mikveh in that area, and people that didn't have like a train or a car or whatever it was, they would sometimes walk 3 days each way just to go to the mikveh. And the Rebbetzin, Moshe's Rebbetzin, did not use this mikveh because this mikveh was not built with all the kashrus. It was just built for B'shas Chak. And for 5 years, Moshe wasn't intimate with his wife because the mikveh wasn't kosher, the tachas kashrus. And the Moshe's Talmidim wanted to copy him, that the wife shouldn't go to the mikveh, but he said, no, you guys can't do it. You guys got married in a time which was a shasat chak, and almanas, can you get married? That she's gonna go to the mikveh even in such a situation. We got married in a time which was fine and everything, and we will makabel themselves only to go to the mikveh kosher. But you got married in this situation. That's what was going on in those times, and it's brought down in the Rabbi Yitzchak Silber's book that ladies would walk in Russia, would go 9 hours each way just to go to a mikveh. And when they would come back, it seems like in the morning they would go straight to the school or something. They shouldn't have what happened. And there were a couple of stories of people that didn't have children. There was once a value with like 10 people, and the husband or the wife got up and they said, Hashem, you could say Edis. Yeah, the reason why we didn't have children with my husband or my wife, whichever ones, is because when we were in Russia, there was no mikveh kosher, and we didn't have any relations. By the time we got to America, it was too late to have children. There was once this yid that came to the square Rebbe. He said, Rebbe, I didn't have all the children all my life. It's just not right. That there was no mikveh. Don't I deserve any children? That was the matzav. They were moist nefesh. They gave away families that they didn't have any children for years. Then they go to the mikveh. And when we look in the Aruch HaShulchan, we see that there were places in Russia that they only went to the mikveh in the summer, not in the winter. A whole year they were aser. And he speaks about the going to because they didn't have mikveh, so they would go into the rivers. And the rivers were too cold, and he says that in winter it's not negay anyways because you can't go to the mikveh. Then he says that there are some people that could really, even though it's so cold, there are ladies that can handle it. So for them, he speaks about what halacha is. But it was very normal in Russia not to go to mikveh whole winter. There was one story I once heard that a Russian woman, they had a mikveh in the house, actually in the dining room was hidden from the Gestapos, and they had a mikveh in the dining room under the floor, and ladies would come and be toivel in that mikveh. And once there was someone knocking on the door, and they got terrified that it was the KGB. Got terrified it was the KGB, and they closed the mikveh on this woman. They closed the floor on top of her. No one should realize. And after 2 minutes, that they realized nothing happened, so they opened back up. And when it was already too late, this lady froze in this freezing water over there in Russia, and she was not responsive. And this woman said that was on top of the mikveh. She said, I'm fine. I could go call a doctor. I don't have to call a doctor. I'll end up going to Siberia because the KGB is going to find out that what there's a mikveh going on over here. But when they're going to close the mikveh, there's not going to be any mikveh for the ladies. Please make a nest. And this lady woke up, and she actually said the halach is that you have to stand. Someone has to watch you while you're being toivel. So this lady said that while I was in the mikveh, there was no one watching me because they got scared. They ran away. They covered the mikveh. So I have to go back in this freezing mikveh. But they told her it's dangerous. She said no. So she went. She actioned herself, and she ended up going back into the water. And when they came out, they said, you're so sick, you cannot go home now. You have to stay overnight. She said, no, I have to go. I'm worried my husband's going to be worried overnight that they caught me or something. And she ended up going back. And that was the Mesiras Nefesh. That was the Mesiras Nefesh from the Yidden. There was another Maisa that in the Second World War, during the Second World War, when one mother was, they were taking her out to kill her. So her daughter was left over there, and they sent her to the gas chambers or something like that. And she called over the last message she gave over to her daughter. She said, "My daughter, I'm asking you to promise me you will keep Taharas המשפחה. You're going to be toivel the way you're supposed to be toivel. And if not, I don't want to have anything to do with you. They can take me out to kill me, but I'm telling you, I'm not interested in. You're my daughter only if you makabel yourself to be kedusha." And she was makabel herself, and even though she was a very schwache in Yiddishkeit, but mikveh she did, she was to very very chashuv children. And these are the stories of Mesiras Nefesh, our parents, and all the generations, in times of the Mitzrayim, in times of Yavonim, and all the generations was like that. So it pays to think about from where we come from, to try to keep that up. Mesiras Nefesh, not always easy, but it's worth it. This is what we stand for. This is and this is why we're the Am HaNivchar. Hashem chose us because we're there, we're faithful to Him, and Hashem should help that we should have chizuk and go in the ways He wants us to go.